Hey guys, and we're here to talk about the songs we sing. And we all know that music can heavily impact people's lives. But I do remember being a kid, and everyone said that none of this stuff can really program you. So we're going to talk about that because I think that that might be a fallacy. And we've got three amazing experts here today to chat that discussion up. So we've got Nick J, Ty Sweet, and Reggie Carter, all music professionals. And then I'm the oddball out who's just talking to you guys. So, why don't we start with a quick intro of each of us? Nick, you want to share a little bit about you and your experience with music and how that's part of your life?
Oh yeah, man. I grew up in Oklahoma and grew up in the Pentecostal church, but also was involved in orchestra in school and excelled on the trombone, which led me to the bass clef, which got me involved in the bass guitar, which has now been my profession for about 23 years, as well as producing and mixing a lot of records. I've got a studio in Wimberley, Texas, with a vintage Neve console and the Hammond B3 and the Whirly and all the fun stuff, and do a lot of really fun work out of here. So I tour with the band of Heathens and the 90s rock band Live. I play bass with the Heathens and keys with Live, and then play with a couple more regional bands that I also enjoy, and just love. Constantly involved in music. It's just all I am. So
I know. And
yeah.
you're one of those people who's always trying to up level yourself spiritually too, which we both know. So,
It's the most important part of being a professional musician is this part, because if you don't have this part, the rest don't matter.
yeah. How do you
So,
connect this to this? And that's been the age old trick that we're still playing games with trying to figure out.
yeah, it's partially music, but it's also just a lot of meditation and a lot of quiet.
That's true. That's
So,
true.
yeah, man.
Ty, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh yeah, born and raised in Austin, Texas. So yeah, just been in Texas and creating music since I was singing since I was 2 years old. Been in the church, raised in the Baptist church, but I worship with anybody that just loves and it's something that I've been just loving to do. Been on the stage ever since, and started creating music in 2000. Produced my first album, just kept on making things, been in some groups. But my main focus has been to help make the world a better place through every song that I create. So just with that focus, and collaborating, like we use Scott with Go Love Now. Just when I first heard about that and hearing your mission to be able to bring more love into the world, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. So uh, yeah, just being able to just continue just putting out more love into the world, and right now mainly through social media, rather than touring and everything. Got a couple boys now, so my focus is on the family, but I also still want to make an impact in the world as well. So, but yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. What's up, Reggie? Tell us
Hey,
about you.
man. I was originally born in Washington, D.C., but I grew up and was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I too was raised somewhat in the church. My dad was a pastor, and um, my mom was a media specialist, so I didn't really have any wiggle room. So, you know how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing what you're
so,
doing.
right. So I developed an interest in music, I guess maybe at the age of about 7 or so, playing piano, and started out kind of like, by ear. And then from there, I got um, enamored with the whole jazz world, and um, kind of went from there and began to kind of do more jazz in church for the most part, and ended up going on some tours with some couple national acts and things like that. Did that for a couple years, and done a lot of corporate band stuff, and been pretty much, I dare I say, around the world doing this. And I just moved to Austin, Texas, maybe about 7 years ago. I moved up here with my first cousin Rod Harrison, who also has an amazing company as well, and it's just beautiful that we're all in this kind of vibe of just being able to just look beyond ourselves and see who we can love, see who we can help. And I begin to kind of get the revelation of understanding my place in music, if you would. Music in and of itself is beautiful, but it's also just a business card. It's just a way for us to be able to get people's attention. But it's what we say after we have their attention that actually changes their life. And that's why it's important to be able to have a solid foundation on both, because you want to do a good job of getting their attention and you want to help to kind of change their life in some kind of way or be impactful. So all these things are starting to really come together. And it's funny you mentioned, Nick, that I'm actually in Wimberley now. So
Oh, nice.
I'm probably right down the street from you.
Yeah, man. I'm here in
Yeah.
Wood Creek, man.
Yeah. We right out here. But yeah, I just got here like a little second ago, trying to make sure I was on time for. So, but that's pretty much what I have in the nutshell as well. It's just beginning to find a way to uh, merge the personal development and the music together, because there's an untapped market of musicians that are out here and artists that actually need what the general population needs as well. So I want to be a part of that. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, cool. I'm going to ask a long, convoluted question of all of you guys and start off with this. One of the things that we talk about in the Go Love Now program, and a lot of the people I coach with and I work with, is there's so many different inputs that we're receiving right now. And it's just such a rapid fire thing. It's exhausting. You know, we've got the internet, we've got AI, we've got all this information, people saying, do this, do this, do this. We're all frozen right now. And I say that when I say we're all collectively, there's so many influences that are just exhausting us. And whether it's music, whether it's leave this political party, eat this food, talk to these people, we're pretty much beat up. So what I want to talk to you guys about is specifically as an input, what can music do for us positively? And where are some of the things that are negative? Because I just want to suggestively settle and tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I see some people take a specific music genre as part of their identity and then say, this is me. Where Nick and I talked the other day about, you know, I love the people who love all music because they can find sad songs when they're sad and process through that. They can find an energized song when you want to go to the gym and process through that. And so it can be such a beautiful emotional management tool to utilize music. So let's just talk about that in general. Where are the positives that music can really be awesome? And is there times maybe it could be to our detriment? And whoever wants to start.
Well, I will say this, is that I want to kind of remove the filter, if I may, of what's quote right and what's quote wrong. You know what I mean? In essence, you know, the way I look at it sometimes is what really gets us towards our vision, what moves us away from our vision. You know, those are kind of the things. So right and wrong is relative. If you think about music in and of itself, in its purest form, it's really taking on the same format as life's existence. It's just a wave. It's a wave. It has a crest and it has a trough. That's really what it is. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It's just different variations. And I think what it boils down to is that music is really all about tension and release, as life is about tension and release. Right. So everything that you do in life that's worth anything is always going to be tension, charge, tension, charge, and then it reaches the pinnacle, and then it's release and then relax. And that's how life works, just in that frequency. So that's why it's difficult to say what's good and what's bad. Now, what I will tell you is anything that's added to that vibration, right, that could cause that same type of influence. Like I always say, it's not the context of the music that destroys it, it's the content. So a lot of times, if there is a negative message that's associated with that vibration, the vibration has a way of being able to filter its way through your skull and through your head and actually be a part of your influence and be a part of that thing that probably pulls you away from your vision, right? So that in and of itself kind of answers the same question. If there was a detriment, it would be the content as opposed to the context. So so that's probably kind of where I stand with music in and of itself. The way music in society is working as well, I think things are becoming a little bit too accessible, if you would. And then we're beginning to reach a state of what I call musical atrophy because of the fact that, you know, our minds are not working or are not developing the way it should in order to create things that are different, things that are new, and things that are that can make a difference and influence. Because we're just not using that muscle. Everything is just push a button and you got a track, right? So,
Right.
and they do it, you know, to kind of keep a place of equilibrium and a place of evenness, so that everybody can do everything. But they, you know, like they always say, if everybody's a superhero, then there's no superheroes, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I, you know, my answer would be for the, you know, for that.
Love it. What do you
Yeah,
think, Nick?
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I feel one of the great positives, if we're going positive and negative with this, one of the great positives about music is it gives something to people to latch onto, something to connect to, something to say, wow, I've experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that also goes to the negative side, you know, like not to pigeonhole it, but a lot of hip hop comes from a lot of anger and a lot of fear. And I love hip hop from my core. Like I think I've talked with you like Jay Dilla. I think Reggie and I were talking about that last time I
Yeah.
met up with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that all hip hop is bad or all hip hop does that, but even country music is getting to a point where it's just talking about nonsense. Pop
Right.
songs are talking about nonsense.
Right.
And like Reggie was saying, like we've kind of lost the soul of it. And now we've got AI to help out. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want AI to help me create.
Yeah.
Like why what that's my job,
Mm-hmm.
you know? That's my life. And so I think that is where we start seeing like this convoluted process of everything is just coming in and like you can do anything
Mm-hmm.
with anything. Like 20 years ago, it took an engineer to engineer a record.
Mm.
You had to know where to put a mic, you had to know what kind of mic to put where, you had to know what kind of drum set was going to sound better for this song, what
Yeah.
drummer was going to play better for this song. Like
Mm-hmm.
so many different aspects. And now you hit a freaking button
Mm-hmm.
and say, I want it to sound like Dua Lipa, but with a Rammstein back end. And it creates it.
Yeah.
And it's like, do we need it? No.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a creative outlet for some? Yes, that part's great.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody is supposed to be a musician. Not
That's
everybody's
right.
supposed to be a superhero. Not everybody's supposed to be a doctor. Like it takes it when you overpopulate a thing, it takes away the value. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So,
Indeed.
Mhm.
but again, there's also a lot of great music out there that's touching a lot of lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's loving, making people love again. That's making people like step away from fear, step away from hate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I
yeah.
love it. What do you think, Ty?
True. Yeah. I concur. I mean, it's all perspective, as well as like everybody's mind is at a different place from our different experiences. Um, and every song has an influence in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it be the certain kind of sound, if you're a musician, it may influence the way you play, a singer, the way you sing, a rapper, the way you rap, or don't rap. It's like you may just want to try to be different and try to create something like I was hearing Lil Wayne say he doesn't even listen to other rappers because he wants to be just himself
Mm.
and not be influenced by other people so heavily. And like now I hear like most rappers sound like Drake because that's what they listen to. But like, you know, um, with music though, the biggest point that I see that we have spoken on today is the content of the songs, and the content of the song. I've just over the years um, listening to music from I mean, you look from the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. It seems like it's just like gone in a downhill curve of more perversity. You like it's become more perverse. It's become more um, violent um, and more. I mean, if you look for those things, you know,
Right.
just as far as how it's just degenerated. Now, as far as how it is become better, as far as helping people to better their lives as a tool like that, to really for that intention rather than just relatability. It's just another song to tickle people's ears. Um, I would say we don't really see that as much. But as far as for the masses, the overall, I've seen more of a decline in content that is something that would influence the masses in a positive way.
True.
So I love all that. So here's a quick question for you. Actually, there's no such thing as quick questions when I ask them. They're not quick. But one of the big discussions I've been having as a coach with people since the beginning of coaching is how do you balance the be and the do? So the be being, I want to be the best version of myself. And how do I apply that and find my own brilliance and create? So you guys are creators. And I'm sure there's a lot of musicians who are getting suckered in or leaned into utilizing AI or utilizing a lot of these tools or utilizing things to almost steal their creative process from themselves. And I think this is happening across the board for humanity. I see so many people who are just doing what they're told and doing what's easy to create a currency flow so they make enough money, and they're losing their soul, they're losing who they are, they're losing the ability to really find the divine in oneself. So what can a musician, what can a person do? What are some of the things that we can do collectively to maintain that creator with all these outside influences that are essentially saying, give away our power? Because this is happening across the board for all of us. Everyone's clinging to anything just to stay afloat versus realizing you can swim.
It's a hard balance, honestly.
Super hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a gold. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Somebody else go first. I've got to expand my thought a little bit more here.
It's a hard question, and every time I try to answer this, I come up with something, and then I'm stuck again too. So,
well, here's how the first thing that comes to my mind, how I look at it, is that there has to be a refocus on the why.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be the first thing. So the issue that I think that most musicians are having is the fact that they are focused more on the result of their value and not enough on the value itself. That's the problem. And they have it backwards because of the fact that the value should be the first thing you focus on, right? And as a result of what you do from a value perspective, then the byproduct of your value will immediately follow, and it'll be pretty much equal or greater, for the most part, the way I've seen it. So that's the first thing. The first thing they want to do is shiny objects, to say you can have this material thing that can burn. You can drive this car that can, break down. But at the same time, they are literally giving away their value. Yeah. This is the same issue that's going on with social media, because social media has found a way, because of the fact that they've made so much money doing what they do. Money now is boring to them. It's boring. So they got to find another goal or another thing that's actually greater. And the thing that they found is being able to grab people's time, because people's time is something you can't get back. So now, if they can show that a person spends this long on a social media platform, that equates to their kind of value, that equates to their thing. And they're giving away their most precious commodity, which is their time. And the same thing goes with the musicians. They're giving away their most precious commodity, which is their ability to manipulate vibrations, right? And get people's attention. They're giving it away for free in order to be able to cope that with something that's less productive, with something that's less enhancing, if you would. And it still goes back to just having a means of control over society. So yes, there is a bigger picture a lot of times, in my opinion, as to why it doesn't work out financially for the musician, because of the fact that their thing that can bring them what they want, they're giving it away for free in exchange for something of lesser value, which would be a little bit of money or a car or or an outfit or notoriety. These are all things that are within us, And the second thing that I would say is the fact that their focus is completely off, in these regards, because of the fact that if we're able to focus on what it is that we want, eventually that will become our reality. And they can't wait for that because we live in a microwave society. We need meals cooked in 2 minutes or less, as opposed to actually waiting 45 minutes for something to bake in the oven. It takes too long, right? And so if we can begin to do, like I said, these 3 things, recalibrate your focus to number 1, exactly what you want, understand your value and know the value of your value, if you would, too. And then number 3, enjoy the process. And that is something that's being lost as well. They don't enjoy the process. This whole process of music is something that's exhilarating, but they just want it so quickly that they don't want to go for the process, which goes back to a first question. You want to hit a button and make a track. It doesn't work that way.
So Reggie, real quick, how do you understand your value though? So like, let's say you're a first time album maker, your value, honestly, in terms of like what you've put in society and music, is not as high as somebody that's on their 3rd or 4th record in terms, but maybe that person feels their content is more valuable than the person who has the 4 records. How do you balance that?
Well, the way I balance it, number 1, it still starts with you. It still starts with your belief, right?
Sure.
Everything goes back to belief. And whether something is accepted as a value from a larger demographic or a larger group of people has to find a place of irrelevance when it comes to your own belief, because that in essence can affect your own belief and the success of your album. Like, I give you an example. So Andre 3000 came out with The Love Below, right? And I remember some friends of mine that were actually working on the album, and there were some people in the room while it was being recorded. They were like, "Man, this ain't gonna work, man. This sounds weird. This sounds crazy," because they were thinking in terms of like, what's the norm, what's going to be popular, whatever else. And he literally told each and every one of them, "Get out. You don't like it? Get out." Right? So because of his belief in his own product, that's why it went where it went. A couple million albums sold or something like that. I forgot exactly the number or whatever else. But what if he listened to those guys, the naysayers, or the people who thought they knew what the deal was, and did what they said do? Then he wouldn't have gotten the notoriety that he got. So it still starts with you. It still starts with inside. Everything starts with belief. Everything. So if you don't reach the level of belief or value that you want to reach, it's not anybody else. It's inside you. You've got to figure out what that is and release it. Because we are limitless. So that means our value is limitless.
Yeah.
So
I love this.
Yes.
You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the same thing happened with Queen with Bohemian Rhapsody. We could probably tell this story like 50 times over. But one of the cool things that you're explaining, and I'm hoping people are really hearing this, is everything you keep saying is within. And here's one of the biggest problems. I want to clarify this right now, whether it's music or life in general, is the minute we seek dopamine rush and we seek external, because think of what you said with social media, money, that dopamine hit's getting old, power. Well, what's next? Like, is we starting to just do things that are totally malicious? Like, you start doing things because it gives me a momentary dopamine hit. I challenge everybody, whether you're a music creator, whether you're any occupation, it doesn't matter. Start to find happiness within what you're doing. Like right now, like I tell my students all the time, I do like 10 different things. I coach, I do podcasts, I do whatever. And every place I am, I'm present in that moment. So right now I'm having a blast that I'm here. I'm listening to you. It's funny because we didn't talk about any of this and all of us are going, yeah. Like you just knew we're on similar pages, which is so cool. And then I'll be in front of my students going, this is so amazing because I'm helping future leaders of tomorrow become those future leaders by looking more closely at themselves, removing this crap and loving this.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, let's talk about that again in more depth as a musician. You nailed the fact of the why. We've got to hyper focus on the why, believing that the how is going to occur, whether we call it God, universe, creator, or whatever that's doing that. That's the scariest thing because you got to believe that the why and then the what. You know, I'm angled this way. I want to create great music because I want it to be about love and changing people's lives. If those two things are in alignment,
Mhm.
the how is going to show up. In fact, let's talk about that right there, because this is something that comes up with people all the time. The minute you do the perfect alignment of why and what,
Mhm.
people get nervous and they run back to just give me a few bucks. How do you really say I'm cool with believing the how is going to happen because I know that I'm so correct? Like Andre 3000, he's sitting there going, I got it. Everyone get out of my why and my what.
Mhm.
How do you trust that how? Because it's scary, and it's not, I mean, it's scary.
Well, I mean, like Christians call it faith. Universal people would call it affirmations, manifestation.
Mhm.
It's literally just believing it. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to play in front of thousands of people, and that's all I thought about. So I practiced 3 or 4 hours a day so that when I turned 18, all of a sudden I'm in Hershey Arena playing in front of 10,000 youth for a youth convention. My very first gig with the band, and then years later, I'm in front of 70,000 people opening up for the Rolling Stones in the Netherlands. It's like you picture this as a kid and you don't stop until you get there. That's it.
Mhm.
That's the how. It's like, okay, that's the goal. Cool. I know where the accelerator pedal is. I've got gas. I've prepared. Let's go.
So you're a person of faith and belief in oneself, okay? Because you truly believe that you're able to create that, and whether you believe that the power supporting is God, universe creator, doesn't matter as long as you buy in. This is where I think people get lost, and tell me your thoughts on this. I want to play in front of 10,000 people. But in doing that, I get rejected 5 times because the person that I'm supposed to talk to is the 6th person, but then I don't go talk to them because I feel like I'm rejected. But that's the universal path, was to say 5 rejections so that you can learn what it's like to take rejection. So when the acceptance comes, you're ready and you're grateful and all those things. I watch so many people get to 5 and then put their head down and say, I can't. And I'm like, but you were doing it. You just didn't know.
Mhm.
What do we need to tell people about that resilience component, that grit, that just keep going? Because I think a lot of people lack faith in self and belief in oneself
Mhm.
because they didn't give themselves enough time to allow the how to process.
I would say repurpose the phrasing, number one,
Mhm.
of the words. Words are serious. You know what I mean? Uh, Quick story. Words, as Nick mentioned, incantations, they are powerful. And don't mean to bring this type of thing up, but back in the medieval days, if a person who was an occultist wanted to put a curse on someone, they would actually write the curse backwards, right? And then what happens is they will go and the person will say, I can't read this. I know it's backwards, but I can't read it. So they hold it up into the mirror and then read it, and they're pronouncing the curse on themselves, right?
Mhm.
So the same thing goes with us. In essence, is that it's rephrasing the words. Instead of using maybe the word rejection, use the word placeholder. You know, what if I use the word placeholder? Oh, I just had about 4 placeholders today, because all they're doing is holding your place so that you can strike at the right moment. You need
Boom.
4 placeholders to get to the 7th placeholder. Uh, 6 placeholders to get to the 7th placeholder, or the goal that you're trying to reach. It's just placeholders. That's all they are,
Yep.
right? So if we can look at it and look in the mirror, look at ourselves, look at our soul, and say, I am grateful, which is the first thing. I am grateful for these placeholders so that I know that by the 7th placeholder, I'm going to reach my goal. You know what I mean? And it's just a matter of just being able to say something that does not shock the nervous system as negatively as a rejection would, or a letdown, or whatever. It's just a placeholder. That's all it is.
I love it.
So I think rephrasing that, number one, is important. And also them being able to do their own incantations, as Nick was saying, in the mirror, do them every morning, and then when you mention them, do these incantations as if it's either happening or already happened.
Boom.
You're looking backwards at something that you've already accomplished, even if you don't
Yep.
see it yet. So that takes a next level up from faith, and now your expectation. You expect to breathe the next breath that you're breathing. That's not faith. It's just expectation. You don't even think about it because you know it's already happening.
And you can do that with all the subconscious mind. That's all the breath is.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
subconscious.
Yes.
However you feed it, that's
Mhm.
how it's going to grow.
Exactly.
So to add to what you're saying, like my dad gave me the greatest advice when I was probably 12 or 13, and something really cool happened. I don't remember what it was. And he goes, "Yeah, I guess you're pretty lucky, huh?" And I said, "I guess." He goes, "Yeah, well, luck is the crossroads of preparation and opportunity."
Mm,
And the thing is you're gonna be driving that preparation road for a long time, and you're gonna
yeah.
pass rejection street,
Hmm.
failure street.
Hmm.
Nah, get out of here. You're not good enough.
Hmm.
I have something better in mind. But then you're gonna reach that opportunity street,
Hmm.
and it's just right there. It's the next block.
Yep.
And so, like, to add to your incantation or affirmation, one of my biggest ones is grateful for everything that's happened, but I'm also thankful for the opportunities that are happening now that are on
Hmm.
their way. And
Hmm.
every time I do that, I have a phone call within 24 hours of
Every time.
something to do every
Yeah.
single time.
Every time.
And it's just believing that, like, if Christians can believe, and I'm sorry to keep using Christians like as that, but Christians believe heavily on the faith that God
Hmm.
is doing this, God is doing that, and it's the same with ourselves too.
Hmm.
That's how you become happy. That's how you become whole.
Hmm.
And it's like, in your affirmations, I am happy, I am successful, I am wealthy, whatever you want to be.
Hmm.
It's just as easy as saying, I'm a piece of shit, I'm
Hmm.
depressed, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that, my
Yep.
anxiety,
Hmm.
and you claim all this shit
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
instead of claiming love. And it's, you have love or fear. Pick
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Love or
Yeah.
fear. Pick one. That's exactly right.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
care.
I think that's so true. I mean, like I was saying before, like perception is everything, and
Hmm.
you can look at it as like a pit stop. It's a part of the process. It's a part of the journey. Just like when Nick was saying, you get in the car, you going to get some gas. You got to get, if it's a long ride, you're gonna have to go and stop and get some gas.
Hmm.
Otherwise you're gonna run out of gas. You're not gonna be able to get to your destination.
Yeah.
So basically, just recognizing it as that, like this is a part of the journey, learning to enjoy the ride, learning to enjoy the journey.
Hmm.
I think what gets so caught up within a lot of music listeners today is that they don't really know exactly like what they are looking for in music or what they are allowing to influence them. What kind of incantations and affirmations that are coming from the musicians that put out these songs
Hmm.
are presenting either blessings to them or curses that they're speaking into their lives that when they sing along to the song.
Mm.
So as a musician, as a person that recognizes the responsibility that holds as far as what I'm putting out there into people's mindsets through their ear gates, that is something that I'm recognizing within this question is something that really has to be dealt with all musicians. I mean, as far as how is that affecting the generations that are listening right now? How is that affecting the children? Um, that it will affect generations to come.
Yeah.
And when we see how we can create in a positive way or in a way that can really influence us in a way that can really help us, I think that's when we can really get something that's really helping the world of humanity to progress,
Hmm.
in a very good direction. Um, I mean, since we're talking about faith, I look at it like how Jesus said it. See, I think he said it the best. He never said you're welcome whenever there were people that would come to him and they would get healed or whatever, and they would say thank you, thank you, thank you. He never said you're welcome. He said your faith has made you whole. So when we really believe in ourselves, and like that's what I think he was really showing people, like just believe in yourself, like know your power, know who you are. But if people are not really knowing who they are because they're getting this bombarding of whatever is putting out in the mainstream, and it's like just a bunch of vain stuff that really doesn't apply anything to their life as far as how they can better themselves, then it's kind of hard to see that in my perspective.
Amen. Can I'd like to
Love that.
go off of what you said, unless you got something, Reggie. I was
Oh
going to
no,
share.
I was really just going piggybacking off of what he was saying earlier and how it just relates still back to balance. You know what I mean? People don't understand that your lowest squat is going to also be your highest jump.
Hell
There's
yeah.
just no way that from a universal perspective that a person can make a high jump with a straight leg. It has to be a balance. So it has to be something that pushes you, and like you said, your faith has made you whole. Your ability to squat and jump has given you the height. You know what I mean? So there has to be a balance, and you're exactly right. You know, this is something that's within you, because people need to understand that the God that we're serving is in us. It starts within us. It's the God that we're praying to is in us, right? You know, and he's every place else, but if we focus on the God within us instead of the God of everybody else, then we would accomplish more of what it is that we're wanting to accomplish from a universal perspective. But it needs to start within. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yes.
So let
100%.
me ask you guys something, because I was catching something really important there. Is that there's two things. There's the delivery of the message, whether it's from our mouths, whether it's from music, and there's something we're putting out in an attempt to heal, to excite, to whatever we're trying to do with it. Then there's the other side. How do we process and how do we listen? And so how do we receive it? I see so many people out there putting out a message, and they're very in love with their message because they think there's value to it. But then when somebody else tries to share, they say that is not within my belief systems, instead of investigating that message to learn more from it. Ty and I have very different belief systems, and the same belief systems all at the same time. And both of us always listen to it. I'm like, it's a good point. You know, he's talking about Jesus right now. Great point. That's not my religion, but I certainly can see like, that's a great point. And he'll do the same thing with me. So what I would ask everybody to explore and think about, and let's have a conversation around this. If we can subscribe to the idea of what Reggie just said, that the divine is within, or Jesus just referenced, you're like, look inside, like you have the power. If we can understand that, then that means we all have divine within us. And so when somebody else speaks, who's speaking? It's coming from a divine place. And even though it's not in agreement with our beliefs, could we learn and grow from something we hear? So that could be music, that could be a political, somebody again, we just say that person's so stupid, what an idiot. No, they came from a place of experience. This is their belief in this present moment. Why or why not? And how can we better influence, and how can we better receive what they're saying or doing so that we can grow in that moment? What can we do as musicians, and what can we do as listeners of the music, or listeners to others, especially right now, we got an election coming up. What can we do to recognize the divine within self and others, to realize all messages have some potential value?
Reggie, you're so good with your words, man. I can't wait to hear what you say.
I'm enjoying it too. That's why I'm giving these loaded questions. I'm like, give me something.
I would definitely say that, and I'm just going to say divine attracts divine, right? And we have to understand that when we speak to people, we're not speaking to them, we're speaking to the God in them. Okay. And depending on how much of that God they're allowing out would also depend on how much of that God would be influenced. So in essence, if we can teach them to actually hear more of themselves, i.e. hear more of the God within them, then it would be even more of an influence. But to be able to talk to somebody, whether it goes positively or negatively, I don't care who you talk to, you're always going to influence someone in some way. Their life is going to be changed, even if they just see you. If you say something to them, their life is changed, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's why it's all about love, because love is one of those things whereby you can't not give love. There's no way, right? Love can only be accepted, never rejected. Period. Right? So even if it's not received, even if it's like or whatever else, the is still an influence. It still gets on if dare I call it, the stain still gets on the outfit. I don't care how you look at it. It doesn't matter. So then this is when we have to necessarily take ourselves, i.e., our ego, out of the way and just understand that it's not us that they're rejecting, right? It's the fact that their ego is blocking that, right? But the ego has no power against the divine. I don't care how you look at it. It may not be the way you want it to. You don't have people falling out or just following you. It's not that. They are influenced. They heard what you said. And if they repeat what you said, you are an influence. Period.
And
Well,
again, Nick,
the
I was
ego
going
is
to
just
say
a
you made a great
protector.
handoff. Yeah.
Yeah, the ego is just a protector anyway.
Yeah.
It's like it's just there to keep you in check.
Yeah.
it's
I
it's when
totally
we
agree.
it's when we live out of fear is when the ego is like, hey, you got to do this.
Yeah.
You can't let people talk to you like that.
Yeah.
You're this person.
Right.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
So can we go full blown science for just like, I'm going to try to summarize it super succinctly, but can we turn this into something real quick that I think I'm always like, do we go there? And then I'm like, let's go there. So there's some science, and I'm blanking on the name of the book. I was just talking to my buddy about it, and I can throw it in here at some point later so people can see. But there's a book that talks about the right side, left side of the brain. And so it's long and detailed, but we always think of creative and analytical. But deeper than that, there's one side of the brain that has no concept of the other side of the brain as far as it's the way it supports us. All it's trying to do is find food and find things, just stuff, sustenance. So it's literally the part of us that's going to make evolution possible. So we want that. That's how we live in humanity. Then the second side is the integrative God piece. It's the divine. So it's sitting here, knows everything and all, but we like to sit here and go food, more, dopamine hit. And we chase because that's what we're programmed to do. What we're doing, and what Reggie just said so flawlessly, is from that space of now, human, give me more, let me eat. We're asking people to go, there's something that you don't quite get yet, but you feel it. You've had little bits of it. You can call them God moments. You can call them awakening moments, whatever you want to call them. That's the part of you that's truly divine, that truly is embraced in oneness. So I really want to just take that point because there's so much beauty in that. You write a song and you say to yourself, yeah, but it didn't really reach so many people. Before a person has a full-blown awakening moment, how many millions of seeds are planted? And so stop taking away your power. Like, people need to just stop that. Yeah, but it wasn't a hit, or yeah, it didn't do this. If you write a song like Imagine and it's a hit, great. But if you write a song that only goes to your church and you're like, I don't know, do it, because you have no idea the seeds of expansion that are going to come from that.
It's almost like trying to see the tree through the forest.
100%.
It's a backward sound, but like it's the exact same thing. It's like you think you have this massive pine, but there's so many seeds in front of that, so many seeds scattered around it. And so you're trying to see the tree through the forest.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Reggie said something perfect early on. He said, we are limitless. So remember this, the limits come from our ability to handle the present moment. We're limited so that we don't go insane. Like, we're limited. So we're like, here's what I can handle in this present moment. But in reality, as long as I truly understand that there's a side of my brain and a side of my being and a divine truth, that I am all knowing. And when I say again, like, somebody's going to go, that sounds egoic. It's the opposite. It's, I know the connection to all information, all source, all divine, all truth is within me. It's not me here at all. Because right now I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I know that I, in the depths of it all, deeply know what's going on. I just don't access it 24/7, but I keep having my divine moments. And you need that to live here. You dip in and out. That's why we have music. Oh my God, that moment. Or some coach helps you with something. You go to a sound healing, or you're just watching your kids recital and you'll start crying. You're like, oh my God, and you have that moment. We have those moments because, to the point that we've been making, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we never think that there's the sixth moment and we're going, I'm a failure, I can't see, I can't, you're right. But we're going to have that street of opportunity because we keep doing the things and believing, and boom, it all happens. And so music can be an insane inspiration for that. And I love this talk. I think it's great.
I'll say this, guy. I was 16 years into my professional career before I got my first big gig. 16 years. Failed a lot. Thought I was in a big gig. did some really big things, but didn't have a big gig yet. 16 years later.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's when you were
No,
ready.
I was ready.
I didn't
that's
get
actually
ready. So go ahead.
that's actually perfect timing because, and this is the reason why you're so strong at it now. I found out, fun fact, that bamboo trees actually spend about 15 years underground before they even sprout. But talk about a strong tree, right? And then when you blow up overnight, it's like, where in the world does this tree come from? I've been
Yeah.
growing underground for 15 years, 16 years. And, and you're right. This is now when, my preparation meets an opportunity, and if it's 15 years down the line, that's 15 years of strength and roots that you've grown to be able to handle the success that you're going to have. Remember this balance. So that means if
Yep.
it took you 16
Mhm.
years, that means that think about the successes you're going to have 16 years later. So now you got
Can't wait.
32 years in the game. You know what I mean? And so that's a beautiful thing. And then Scott, to your point, what you were saying earlier, is that measuring your success based off of who you reach. I'm reminded of this this story. I'm probably sure you've heard before, but there was a guy who just bought some beachfront property. Right, he's pretty proud of himself, and he would get up in the morning and kind of go out on his terrace and kind of meditate or whatever else, maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So around that time, he noticed an older gentleman that was also up at around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and he would go down to the beach, and all these crabs would wash up overnight, and he would go down to the beach and actually start taking the crabs and throwing them out in the ocean, one by one, throwing them back out in the ocean. He'd do this for hours, and he'd leave and go back. So maybe like around the 4th day, the guy's just like, I'm going to talk to this guy. I don't understand why he's doing this. There's thousands of crabs out there, and he's no way he's going to reach any of them. What is he doing? So the guy went out there. He's like, I'm going to go talk to him tomorrow morning if I see him. So sure enough, like clockwork, the guy was out there early in the morning. Went out there and said, excuse me, sir, I just moved into the property that's right down the street, and for the past 3 or 4 days, I've been seeing you throwing crabs back into the ocean, and there's like thousands of crabs out here. Why do you waste your time like that? You know what I mean? I don't understand. So the old man, without even breaking a stride, picked up the next crab and said, because it matters to this one, throws it back out. And that's the whole point. Your music has nothing to do with you once you release it. It only matters to the person that's listening. It only matters to the 2 people it needs to deliver, because if those 2 people can find what they're looking for in your music, you could have saved their life. And then their saved life could have been because that person is going to be the next president, or that person is going to be the person that's going to come up with a cure for AIDS. But it just takes 2 or 1 person. And you're complaining about you're not reaching 10,000 other people? Who cares? And that's why it's very important that when we create this music, and this, Scott, this is why I love what you're doing, is because of the fact that music is more powerful when you attach it to a purpose. That's the whole point. Music without a purpose is just a vibration. It will come, you will hear it, and it will dissipate, just like smoke, just like any sound, just like anything else. But if you can attach that music to a purpose, it can live on forever.
I
So
think we end on that right there, exactly, because that's the full summary of the whole thing. Remove the limits, recall your limitlessness. Don't let it drive you insane, because even though it's scary when you recognize the divine within, when you align a purpose and a what, that divine within is going to dictate the how, and that's just reality. And it's going to be scary. We're not going to lie. It's easy. I'm sorry, it's simple, but it's not easy. You're going to be going, you said this. No one said it's easy. We're just saying that how is going to drive you bananas, but you're going to be sitting there in the 16th year or the 15th year of being bamboo going, holy crap, how did this happen? And listen, you could listen to this same story when you start listening to people tell their success, and you're going to go, whoa, that was very similar. Or, whoa, that was very similar, because it's part of the process. You got to put your time in. You've got to create your roots. You've got to truly believe in oneself and something bigger than self, which is self. If that's confusing, it's supposed to be. And that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you guys for being here. It was a beautiful discussion. I think we definitely got to come up with some good questions and do this again, because this was maybe we just listen to Reggie and we just go.
Yeah, right.
Don't-
Reggie Rubin over here.
I loved it. I loved it.
It's
Wait,
supposed to be.
you know what's fun? A lot of those were just guesstimating like the way we both think, and I'm just throwing that up there. I'm like, you're gonna come attack this one. When you came with the why right away, I'm like, he's got to come with purpose why. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
That was great. Wonderful.
I loved it. That was so much fun. Well, you guys have the most beautiful rest of your day. Next time I do have to figure out how to make sure this is going live the right way. Maybe that's something you and I can figure out, Ty, because
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
always something more. I for some reason it's only going live on some of the pages, so we'll figure that out. But it will be posted all over Facebook. We can follow up and we can talk to anybody who's listened to this after they, throw that stuff in the comments. We can answer their questions after. I'm sure there'll be some great questions and comments.
Okay.
Thank you guys again. Love you all. Go jump into my day, and I'm going to go love now.
All right.
See you guys.